go back to this. Readiness and supporting. They're essential for success at that grade level for the future as well. They support our college and career. For the students that she was subbing for those 2 days, they don't know basic multiplication facts. Are they going to do well when they get to college?
No.
What's the first thing that the university is going to do? They're going to go to remedial class. They're going to go to remedial class automatically. Those kids, do they have a chance of not going to college? Probably. Most likely they're not going to go because they've had bad experiences when it comes to math, and nowhere have we filled in those basic gaps. Okay? All right. They require in-depth instruction, and they address significant content concepts. If you have gaps here, you're going to have big gaps. That's going to affect your other subjects. So if I'm low with multiplication, it's going to affect my geometry. It's going to affect my algebra 1. It's going to affect my algebra 2. It's going to affect everything else that I do from here. My supporting standards. They're introduced at that grade. They're specific. You're going to hear people say, stay in your lane, stay in your lane, stay in your lane. You have to stay in your lane. Teach what our job is. Teach your grade. That's your minimal. Teach it well. If you've taught it well, then by all means, bring in other things. But you're responsible for this, and your kids, teach it well. Okay? Reinforce in the current grade, and they're going to be using it. It's going to build on each other. And it's critical. If they don't learn that concept at that time, they're going to struggle for the other subjects. And this happens not just in math, it happens in reading, in science, in social studies, in all your subjects. Okay? All right, go to the next one, Mr. Ricardo. Okay, do you go ahead and go to this attachment? Okay, this is from Lead Forward, and this is what the main page looks like. If you go to STAAR Resources, everything here is free, okay? And you have these tabs. Go ahead and go to the first one, IQ, Release Tests and Snapshots. And then scroll to the bottom. This is all your grades, okay? The reason you see math new, do you know why there's math new? There's new math standards. Did you all know that? There's new math standards that the state has said. We're not going to force you to implement them till next year, but we are going to test them the following year. So what does that mean?
Start now.
We're starting now. We're starting now. And our third, fourth, and from third up, guess what they're doing? They're teaching old because they're going to be tested. They're teaching new because they're coming up in 2 years. And we're just trying to figure out the correct balance. That's hard. Our lower grades, guess what they're doing? They're teaching you right now. They're teaching you right now because they're going to be tested in second grade, which means that we have 2 years to figure out the complexity, the dynamics, the critical thinking. Not because we're getting ready for a test, but because we have to learn how we're going to teach these teas. Does that make sense? Okay. But yes, there's new teas. You haven't heard that from the districts, have you? Okay. When you go to interviews, when you go talk to districts, have a conversation. How are you all addressing your new math standards? Right away. You are ready ahead of the game. Okay. All right. So like I said, they have the subjects. See, the STAAR snapshots means the grades that are tested on STAAR. Those are the one-pagers. When it says TEAK snapshots, they're just like this, but because they're not tested, they don't call them STAAR snapshots. They're your TEAK snapshots, and they're one-pagers. And I love them because these are for the lower grades. It has all the TEAKs you have to teach, all of them. And I like to use them as a checklist. When I give a lesson, did I address this standard? Did I address this standard? Did I bring in these standards? They're fantastic. And then what this company has done that they've taken, for example, they've taken the STAAR test and they've broken it down. Reading has the reading test. You are tested on genres: expository, literature, narrative, and poetry. And so I got to go to poetry for third grade. So if I go to poetry, they broke down the questions and go down a little bit. So if this is the poem they used. Yeah, you thought it was a pretty small poem, huh? That's their grade. That's their grade.
And it's beginning very young. I was a first grade teacher and now I'm a pre-K teacher. And we have to start pre-K and I was like teaching poetry, which just came up recently. All of a sudden, Dad, you have to teach poetry.
When I was in high school, I took advanced placement. I was in AP class for English many years ago. And in my AP English, we learned about drama, about negative and positive influences, and director sketch and director directions, and about font and italicized. That was 12th grade AP. That same skill, we're teaching it in 4th. So thank goodness that I have that little bit of background that I brought in. Otherwise, guess what was our lowest teeth that first year of STAAR? Drama. Drama, but it's so easy because we haven't done it. We don't have experience with it. How do you teach it? Okay, so go down. So we have the test, and this is what's so fantastic. Stop right there. They have the questions that were addressed, that were for poetry. But we don't use this as test prep. We have to be creative. You have to think outside the box. If I'm going to do a poetry, if I'm going to do it anyways, it's going to be focused, the questioning, the conversations I'm going to have with the kids. Okay? I'm going to pull the question stems. This is lower to level 1. Okay? And I'm going to use the stems to help me when I'm teaching my kids to have those conversations. Go down, Ricardo, so that I know what language to use with the kids. Why does the poet use the exclamation points in the first stanza? Is that level 1, 2, or 3, or 4? Level 1 is the easiest, 4 is the highest. What do you think? Why does the poet use the exclamation points in the first stanza? Ricardo, what do you think? Level 1, 2, 3, or 4? It's a level 2, basic level. Basic level. Okay. Go down. Down. Okay. Look at this one. Read lines 17 and 18 from the poem. This is a double-coded. And I want you to think about why. Interpretation, analyzing. What do you guys think? They need to know what? The secrets?
Sequence.
The sequence, okay, the sequence. Is it higher order thinking or lower level thinking? Yes.
We also need to know, vocabulary. How many of us know stanza, for instance? My son is in 2nd grade, and you're telling me that he's going to be tested this next year. He doesn't.
Let me tell you this.
You're taught very early on about stanzas because they're the paragraphs of poetry.
Stanza is a teak in kinder. The law says when you have your breakdown of your teeth, if we go back to the blueprint, the yellow sheet for kinder, you will find the teeth that says poetry, stanzas. Stanzas and lines and rhyming counts, and it starts with nursery rhymes.
Yes. Nursery rhymes we do in pre-kinder, so our school is very early on. The region is very early on.
So the state is saying, you're going to do it anyways, so you have to be focused in the way that you're doing it. Are you surprised by that question?
No.
No? Do you think it's hard?
No.
You don't think it's hard?
No. Not for them.
For an 8-year-old who's in 3rd grade? Yes. The percentage in the state of this question, does it have it on there? No. Is a 34%. This is an inferencing question. This is a drawing conclusions question. Okay? it is hard for them. Inferencing, drawing conclusion, summarization are the three hardest TEKs for our students across any grade. It doesn't matter what grade it is, because it's very abstract. If we are modeling and thinking and using this language from day one, it's going to be a lot easier for them to understand. But I study this as a teacher so that if I'm going to do poetry anyways, I have to do it anyways, I want to make sure that I'm using this language. Does that make sense? Yes? Do you have any questions?
So this website provides you this resource where you can go back and look at these types of questions and develop that vocabulary if you don't have it already.
Yes,
Incorporate.
or TAA releases their tests, but what they've done is, go back, Ricardo. They've broken for when it comes to reading. The state says, because the state, when they changed our language arts, they said you have to do drama, you have to do nursery rhymes for certain grades, you have to do folk tales. Will you go back to the forward? You have to do these genres. We have to expose our kids to all this literature. And what they've done is expository is informational, newspaper articles, websites, email, that's that. And so they've put them, the questions together, and we use them. Let's look at the question steps. What kind of vocabulary do we have to be using with the kids? Because it's all academic. What type of thinking do I need to make sure that my kids, that I'm showing my kids? Does that make sense? Okay. Okay. Let's go to see how they've done it for the language arts. Okay. Expository fiction, poetry, and then expository narrative drama. 4th grade is the first year that drama gets tested. The drama, Ricardo, drama goes all the way to kinder, right?
It does.
Plays. Think of readers theater.
Readers theater.
Okay. If we do readers theater, we're gonna be okay. Okay.
And back then, and I think you should bring up the point that because we're so tax driven, all that went out the window. So a lot of people were doing test prep. So the ones that knew how to take those test preps, did those manuals all year long, knew how to take the test. So now the dilemma in many of the schools now is, how is that we're bringing back everything that we once did back into the classroom?
That's good.
Your folk tales, your tall tales. The state says you have to teach this. Before, only your best teachers did it. This, since STAAR, you have to. You have to. Otherwise, what? You're not going to do well. With good instruction, you're going to be fine. Good instruction, you're going to be fine. But it's ensuring that our kids, all our kids, are exposed to that great literature when it comes to the language. Okay? All right, so that's what they've done here with breaking down the tests. If you go into math, let's go into math 5th grade, and then I'll show you what feet go down. You have them in English and Spanish. Okay? Math 5th grade. And what they've done, what's that? Okay, stop right there. Okay. See, right here, this is a double-coded question. You have your 5-2A, which comes from your readiness or supporting, TEK, and then you have a process skill. Do you see it? 514A. Do you see it? So that's a double-coded question. So if this child gets it wrong, he's going to get it wrong in 2 areas. At this TEK and at this TEK. Yes? Okay, go down. Guess what? What is that? What is that called? Double-coded. Double-coded. How many of our questions are going to be double-coded? What does that mean for our instruction? I have to teach. The process skills. I have to do it. I have to do it. In just one TEK or all of them?
All of them.
All of them. I have to do it. Will you go to the next one? There it is. Go look for 514A. What's 514A in your standards? We gotta go add your your sheet, your one sheeter. What's it?
Identify the math in everyday situation.
Identify the math in everyday situation. What does that mean? I'm gonna use real world experiences. Usually, 90% of the time, when it's that teach, they'll have a picture, a photograph of a real world type of connection. So I bring in the real world experience. Okay? All right? Isn't this website awesome? Isn't it awesome?
Do they also show you like for middle school or high school science?
Rebecca, will you go back? I believe so. Go down. 6, 7, 8, and then the high school.
You know what? At our school, we don't use this website. Believe me, I'm gonna go back and show it to them because not even our curriculum coaches. I'm in El Paso Independent School District, and I don't think we knew this resource.
Okay. Guess how I learned about this resource?
How?
It's research. It's part of my job. Searching, looking. I went to a training when it came to Feed Forward many years ago by chance. And at the beginning when this is a new company, but their materials are free. They're really leading the way when it comes to analyzing and breaking it down. And we have to be creative in how it's all about, if I'm gonna do it anyways, I'm gonna make sure that it's focused and I'm using that language. Okay, so I've kept up with them, and now a lot of districts are very familiar with them. They train at Region 19 all the time. They're very expensive when you go to training, but they're very well worth it. Awesome, awesome, awesome people. So I use these with my teachers all the time. So I'm on here a lot, and so when the updates are on there, okay, but I just love this one. They're all free. They're free. Okay, so you're gonna, when you go back to my PowerPoint, do you have any questions about that?
I just have a question of what these standards pose for dual language programs or bilingual programs that are coming more frequently into the district. That means
Your standards, when it comes to your standards, they have two sets of TEKS. You have Spanish TEKS and English TEKS. And if you are teaching the Spanish part, what are you going to teach? What TEKS are you going to teach from? The Spanish ones. The English part of the day, what were they going to teach? The English ones. 98% of the TEKS mirror each other, English and Spanish. When you have very different is in your language arts when it comes to writing, because Spanish has very different grammar rules. So that's why it's so important when teachers decide for those dual language students, what test are they going to take? When they take the Spanish, they're going to be tested on what? Spanish TEKS. But yet if I haven't been teaching the Spanish TEKS, oh my gosh. Does that make sense? And the Spanish test, and they have it, B4 has it so you can see it. The Spanish test is very rigorous. It's very academic, very formal Spanish. And I've yet to see a program that teaches to that academic language. So that's a decision that has to be made at that campus. What is the test version that the kids are going to take? Because of the language that's used. Very academic. Does that make
they
sense?
have the choice. That's good to know that they have the choice.
Yes, they do. They do. The choice, they no longer have a choice starting in 6th grade. Because the Spanish version doesn't exist. Yes?
Thank you.
Okay, do you have any other questions about this? No?